Hello there and welcome to my channel. This is normally an art channel, but if you clicked on the video, it's because you saw it's a comprehensive guide to living and working in South Korea. I'm making this video because as somebody who lived and worked in South Korea, these are things that I wish somebody had told me before I went there. I did do a bunch of research myself before I went overseas, and I didn't find anything that told me the information I'm about to tell you today. I also want to give you information that isn't meant as marketing. For instance, have you seen any of those videos that say China's living in the future, or anywhere in Asia, especially South Korea, has a lot of super amazing technology? Or you watch a K-pop music video and you're drooling because it looks so futuristic. Well, I hate to have to be the one to tell you those are exceptionally good marketing techniques, and while your girl loves K-pop, I mean, I've got K-pop tattoos and I've got a lot of memorabilia. The technology isn't that great in South Korea. When it rained in South Korea, the Wi-Fi wouldn't work at both the school I worked at and in my apartment. I'm telling you this because I don't want you to be caught off guard and then be upset when expectations don't live up to reality. Now, I am not trying to discourage you from going to South Korea. Quite the opposite. You absolutely should go, but I want you to be as prepared as possible. So, this video will be structured into 3 general parts. The first one is logistics, things you need before you go to South Korea, and then kind of how you're going to navigate getting around in the country. And then the second part will be about the work life and the work culture. And then the third part will be about your free time, and I put free time in quotation marks because spoiler alert, you don't really get any free time. Sorry. Before I get into any of that, I have to start this video by asking you why you want to go to South Korea. This is something you need to decide for yourself before you go, or before you even reach out to the company or even think about applying to South Korea. My motivation behind going to South Korea is I was working on a comic. In fact, I'm still working on this comic, but it's about K-pop. So I needed to go to the country of origin. I needed to understand why it is the way it is, and I need to understand the country that it's from. Your motivation can be literally anything. It can be something superficial, it can be something super deep, but whatever it is, you need to keep that in mind, and because if you forget it, you're gonna leave. It's just that simple. You're not going to be able to handle the culture shock. You're not going to be able to handle this, blah, 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 blah. Once you have decided what your motivation is, you have to keep that in mind as you go through culture shock, because you will go through culture shock. Everybody does. And if they tell you, I never gone through culture shock and I won't when I get to South Korea, is a bullshit. Okay, everybody goes through culture shock in varying degrees of severity. Example I will give you before I actually get into the rest of the content of this video is how you handle culture shock in one country is very different to another country. My way of handling culture shock in Austria was to focus on my work, do a good job, and then make friends who had similar interests as me. For example, I met some people who really liked watching anime, so we would hang out on the weekends and we would discuss our horrible theories, and then we even tried playing D&D. Yeah, that approach did not work when I lived in South Korea. It blew up pretty catastrophically in my face. I'm going to tell you how catastrophically it blew up because I do not enjoy reliving something so embarrassing, but I'm relaying this in hopes that it will show you can get through it, and maybe this will help you. Also, I like to tell stories on my art channel, so, if you like stories and classic literature and looking at art, consider liking and subscribing. Great, had to put a self-plug in there. So, my job in South Korea was I was an English teacher for kindergartners. And as part of this job, you have a co-teacher that speaks English and Korean so they can communicate with the children if the children are just super duper confused or if they need to talk to the parents. I had the lovely misfortune of having a very controlling co-teacher. And that was something that I actually could not handle. We got along for the first month. I came to South Korea halfway through the school year in October when they were doing what was called open class, meaning that the parents would come in and watch us teach. The pressure was on, the stress was up. I was told by the admin I had to come up with a lesson plan based on the topic, and it was all on me. So I went, okay, this is my job. My co-teacher, however, did not seem to get the memo that I was in charge. So she actually would come into my classroom. She would watch me teach, which is normal. You know, that's a normal thing in the States and in Europe. But what she was doing that was abnormal was she was interrupting me while I was teaching, asking me questions like, why are you teaching this? Actually, you should say this. And it got to be way too much for me when she actually interrupted me, told me, you're not saying that, you're saying this, repeat after me. She made me repeat after her in front of the kids. So effectively, she stripped me of authority and humiliated me. It's a big no-no in America and Europe. And she and I ended up getting in a pretty big argument about it after work. And when I asked the admin for help and asked them to step in and just mitigate it, they wouldn't because I was a foreigner. Even if she was in the wrong, or even, well, I think she was in the wrong, right? But they wouldn't step in because due to the hierarchical structure, she had more authority than me. And it actually made everybody avoid both me and her. It was pretty horrible. And I remember thinking, I don't think I could be here anymore. So I called up my mentor, I explained the situation, and he said to me, so why are you in South Korea? And I said, oh, for my art, and I want to learn and understand these people. And he said, great. You just answered your own question. You stay. And I said, but they're being mean. They're hurting my feelings. They're bullying me, blah, 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 blah. And he said, who gives a shit? You're here for yourself, not for them. Don't let them push you around. Nobody's making you leave. And yeah, it's difficult, but who cares? That was a hard pill to swallow, but he was absolutely right. And per Korean culture, I actually had to apologize to every single person in the building. But you know what? That humiliation served me well. I ended up getting the biggest classroom and all of the students that I wanted and the co-teacher I wanted the next year. So, you win some, you lose some. It was a difficult experience, but it was very important. Now, that was all very long-winded, and I tell you this at the beginning as a reminder that you need to keep in mind why you are there, because it will ground you and it will make your time easier. I also hope that it helps you if you have a particularly difficult time. Just know you're not alone, okay? So let's get into the logistics. I would recommend going with a company that can help you get an interview, and they will hopefully get you all of your paperwork together. I will be telling you this from the perspective of an American and from somebody who was a teacher. So if you want a tech job, you probably will have to go through a little bit different circle, but I hope that the idea is still the same. So the company I went with, put their name right here on the screen. They were really good. They got everything together fairly quickly. The thing that you need to consider when you're putting together your paperwork is that it varies from country to country. And you also need to consider if you have any special needs and or requirements. For example, for me, it was very, very important that I brought my dog. So I did, but that meant extra certifications, extra costs, and then a little bit of extra time. My dog never missed any of his vaccinations, but because South Korea is a rabies-free country, he needed a rabies titer test just to prove that he didn't have rabies. Okay, cool. But talk to the company you're working with and they should be able to help you with that. Just be aware that it can take anywhere from 3 to 6 months to get all of your paperwork together, all of your documentation, blah, blah, blah. I actually managed to get mine in 2 months, but that was because I really laid it on thick and got people to help me as much as they could. Anyway, so when you actually arrive in South Korea, they have really good bus systems and transportation systems. The taxis can be expensive, but they are also pretty affordable, all things considered. Just download Kakao Talk, Kakao Taxi, and Naver Maps, and they'll help you figure out different ways to get they'll help you figure out the best way to get there. I would suggest asking Koreans for help, but another huge thing, you have to know Korean before you go to Korea. At least a base level of understanding. I say this because Korea is not like Europe, where every single European that you run into knows English better than you do. They're actually pretty shy about speaking English. They're actually more afraid to speak English than you are to speak Korean. Just try your best, and it's okay to make mistakes. They appreciate you trying. I promise. Okay? Learn Korean. Now we've arrived to talking about work culture. The work ethic in South Korea is intense. You are overworked and underpaid and underappreciated. Korea is a very old culture. While I guess South Korea itself isn't that old of a country, the culture has been around for a very long time. I'm not getting into that history lesson. Basically been around for thousands of years, and they're very set in their ways. This means they have a very hierarchical structure, and you, my friend, is a foreigner all the way down at the bottom. That means you have no authority and no one will listen to you. You basically just have to keep your head down at work and try not to bring any attention to yourself. If you're unsure of something, always ask the Korean person who's above you. This is not an easy adjustment, especially if you're coming from an American perspective. In America, it is assumed that everybody, despite their differences, is able to start from an equal footing. Okay, so let me give an example of this difference. If you are buying K-pop concert tickets in America, right, the closer you are to the stage, the more expensive the tickets. Nosebleeds, a lot cheaper. In South Korea, if you're buying K-pop concert tickets, they are the same price no matter where you are sitting. Yes, nosebleeds pay the same as the front. Yeah, you basically pay a lot less to see Bangchan's abs. Great. This ends up making it hyper-competitive and impossible to get anything. And it's also just very unfair. Why should I pay the same price as somebody sitting in the back if I'm going to sit at the front and drool over a K-pop boy? All I gotta say. It's all in the name of fairness, but it ends up being extremely unfair in practice. Here's another example. In the States, if you are teaching somebody who is on the spectrum, if you let the admin know, they can make exceptions and help give them a little bit more even footing. I had a student in South Korea who was very much on the spectrum, basically nonverbal. We were not allowed to say anything, and we would have gotten in trouble if we tried to give him extra help, because that would mean that he was different and he did not fit in with everyone else. So this whole idea being we're all Korean and we must be treated the same ends up being very unfair, because somebody who needs extra help can't get it. This is why it can be hard to get help from anyone when you have questions, because most people in South Korea will defer to the higher ups, and they're also trained not to use their brains, as in, I actually got in trouble for asking questions and trying to think outside of the box. Ouch. You need to be prepared for that. So, how do you handle it? Well, you focus on the good things in your environment. What I would do is I actually would collect all of the drawings that the students would make for me, and I actually have 2 binders right here that I can show you. Okay. I hope you can see it. Yeah, here's one. And then let me get the other one. Whoops, a daisy. Don't mind me making noise like that. And then here is the other one. They're full. You know, the kids. It was just really, really sweet. So anytime that I'm finding I'm having a super hard day, or dare I say a bad day, I just go back through and I look at these, because they remind me how much love the kids have to give. And it helped keep me grounded. Another thing that you could do that I highly recommend buy a journal in South Korea and you write down something good every day and you decorate it with stickers and whatnot. So this was my little book. Let me read a couple of examples from in here. The kids would also tape stickers in here. So here's one that I find very, very cute. The boy loves to sing. I'm not using any names here, but it says, the boy loves to sing. He whispered sang a Korean song about a pony to me yesterday. I remember that kid. It was a really cute moment. He was, he discovered that he really liked singing and he had to share it with me, but he's a little bit shy. Or this one, the girl stomped her foot while wearing her Elsa dress and made an ice castle. It was lovely. She literally was sitting there reenacting the whole thing. It's really, really beautiful how creative children are. Oh, here's another one. Okay, so drivers in South Korea are horrible. If you're prone to getting car sick, you're going to constantly be car sick in South Korea. But I wrote, I appreciate the bus drivers. Their job can't be easy. I don't think the monotony of driving the same route and the same people is conducive to quieting any worries or annoyances of existence. I hate driving. I sure as couldn't do it. Oh, yeah. But, anytime I'm having a particularly difficult day, that's what I go back and read. They're really sweet, important things to remember. The other thing I would do is I would listen to what the cultural idea was, and then I would go with the original idea rather than how it was practiced. So as an example of this, on somebody's birthday in Korea, their job is to bring treats and all of the party supplies. That's not how we do it in the States. If it's your birthday, everybody else brings the stuff for you, right? It's the exact opposite in Korea. So I ran with it, and on my birthday, I took the attitude of, it's my birthday and I'm gonna make it your problem. So I bought a cake for my homeroom class, I bought coffee for all the teachers, and then I bought a bucket of candy that I shared with all of the other classes. And I remember it was just a really, really fun day. I really enjoyed it. And I was actually one of the only teachers that went that all out for their birthday. But I remember one of the little girls came up to me the next day and she said, "Teacher, is it your birthday today?" And I said, "No, sweetheart, that was yesterday." And she said, "Oh, I wish your birthday was every day." And I said, "Yeah, me too. It was pretty fun, huh? Sorry, it only happens once a year." Yeah. Or another example is on Teacher Day, which is actually Buddha's birthday. I spent my day in service, which I think is how Buddha would have wanted it. Rather than going around and just taking a day off, I helped one of my coworkers clean their apartment, and then I went outside and I played with the neighborhood kids for a couple of hours with my dog, and they all really thought it was cool that they got to play with this little black dog. Yeah, so something that will help you deal with how difficult the work culture is remembering that everybody is just as much of a person as you are, and you need to meet them where they're at. Keep your head down, try not to make any waves, and just observe everything as it is. The Koreans aren't kind to themselves, so how can you expect them to be kind to other people? When you look at it from that perspective, it's easier to have compassion and just take it a day at a time. The other really important thing is you have to be aware is that you're going to get into trouble, and it's actually not going to be your fault. So in order to deal with the stress of never treating anybody different in a group setting, they will single out one person and kind of beat up on them. And then once they've finished with that, they'll move on to the next person. It's not healthy. It is not healthy group dynamics. It's actually very toxic. It'll pass. I would encourage you not to get caught up in it. You know that meme where it's the child in the womb and it says, that's basically how Korea functions. You're not allowed to be a child. So since they are not allowed to be children, they never actually grow up. It's basically high school clique dynamics to an extreme. and you're the weird kid who's the outcast. My heart goes out to them because it's not an easy way to live. This leads us then to the third section about free time. You're not gonna have a lot of it, but it will be very precious when you do. Hi, really quick, I don't know what happened with my camera, but I'm blurry basically for the rest of the video, so just be aware. Sorry, but I thought the information was more important than a clear face. If you are a teacher, the children go to school year-round. That means you don't have that 3 months of basically paid vacation. You will only get about 2 weeks off in total during the year, maybe 3 weeks off in total, one for spring break, Thanksgiving, and then Christmas. And then you only get 3 paid sick days. And they pressure the hell out of you not to take them. I remember I had the flu. It was really, really bad. Actually so bad that I could barely walk. And they told me to go to the hospital. So I went to the hospital, got in after 5 minutes, saw the doctor after 5 minutes, got my medication after 5 minutes, cost me $5. They gave me 6 different medications. I was hopped out, man. And then they told me, get your ass right back to work. I was still contagious, so I actually got the entire school sick. If you're wondering how COVID spread so fast in Asia, that's how. They tell you, wear a mask, you have to go to work. That's rough, buddy. Because you have no free time at all whatsoever, you have to take your weekends seriously, okay? You have to go, you have to meet people, you have to go to the clubs. Seoul has great dance clubs. I don't know, find people who have the same interests as you. Meet people on the street. Go on dating apps. Don't go on dating apps. But you know what I mean. Do that if it suits you. Make friends. Now, what I would do during my free time is I would walk my dog for hours on end, and then I would make friends while I was walking. Dogs are really good people magnets. I would do that basically every day. But then on the weekends, I would go into Hongdae in Seoul, and I would go to the art store and buy really fancy art supplies. Try as many restaurants as you can. The food in Seoul is amazing. I still miss the food to this day. In fact, when I got back from South Korea, part of my reverse culture shock was being really sad that the food here is crap compared to the food in South Korea. I actually went to different K-barbecue restaurants and was asking for all the side dishes and the kimchi in particular. And I actually cried at one of them because the kimchi was so bad in comparison. Oh, here's another thing. Food over there is hella spicy. And lunch is provided wherever you work. So that's cool. But I remember one day it was tteokbokki and chicken. And the sauce was so spicy that when I took a second helping, I actually started crying because it was so spicy. And all of my coworkers were like, what's wrong? Are you okay? And I said, it's so spicy, but I'm so hungry and it's so good. They made fun of me for a week. Okay. But those are the moments that you need to live in. That's what's important, and it's what's going to get you through the quirks of their culture. They've come a long way, but they have even further to go. But that can really be said for every human being. The main way you need to approach them is with love and understanding, and they really are trying their hardest to take care of each other. It's just a little bit difficult to take care of someone when you're legally and morally required to. You have to in the system. So when you're required to be nice to someone, you end up inadvertently being a little bit cruel. So do your best to show them as much love and understanding as you can. And I know that I succeeded in showing them a lot of love because when the kids would draw pictures of me, they'd make sure to draw the bun on top of my head, and then they would draw a nice red heart over my chest. I really, really miss the kids. I would actually still be in South Korea. I had some family problems I had to come back and deal with. Couldn't be done long distance. But I am hoping to go back Actually, my goal when going back is I would really like to be an artist who does the art for different K-pop groups for their albums, and even be the photographer for a lot of their photo shoots. So if anybody who cares about K-pop sees this video, or anybody cares about Korea, hit me up. I've got a bunch of stuff. My time in South Korea was the most important time of my life. It was very difficult, but it was all very worth it. I ended up healing a lot over there, which is not something that I would have expected. But when you step outside of yourself, step outside of where you're from, and try to understand somebody else who's grown up completely different than you have in a completely different environment, it gives you a greater level of appreciation for your culture, their culture, and just this beautiful world that we reside on. The Korean people will always hold such a very special place in my heart. I wish they weren't so harsh on each other, but I'm glad they're not harsher. And I met them where they were at, and that's what's important. They helped me a lot, so I hope to be able to help however I can one day. Okay, let's do a quick recap before I ramble on for way too long. I've got way too many stories. Again, check my account. I talk about them. Some of them are absolutely ridiculous. Oh, that's what life is about. Number 1, establish why you want to go to South Korea. Number 2, understand that you will go through culture shock and you do need a coping mechanism. And again, this differs from person to person. Number 3, Korea has a hierarchical structure in which you are the bottom. Handle that with grace and don't focus on it too much. Number 4, make friends and have fun in your free time and eat lots of good Korean food. Number 5, keep notes from other people. Keep notes about yourself, about daily happenings that make you smile. And number 6, treat everyone with patience and love, even if they don't deserve it. I really hope you found this helpful, and if you have any questions, feel free to comment down below in this video, or you can send me a DM on my Twitter or my Instagram, or you could even send me an email. Please remember that you are not alone. You are very loved and you are very important, and I'm very excited for this next step of your life, this whole journey that you're embarking upon. It's going to be amazing. And don't doubt your intuition. That's the other thing. If you know it to be right, it is right, and ignore the haters because they're idiots. They couldn't do what you're doing. Come on. All right. If you have any questions, let me know. I love you. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.